Hello and welcome. Kidnapping, terrorism, food insecurity. These are some of the challenges faced by Nigerians when this administration came to office in May 2023. With the Renewed Hope agenda, Nigerians look to President Bola Tinubu and his team for answers to the nation's security challenges. Have these hopes been met? How far along are we 1 year later? And what do we need to do to secure Nigeria? Over the next 2 hours, we will sit down in conversation with subject matter experts as we go in search of answers to the questions. Where were we 1 year ago? Where are we now? And what's the way forward? Our aim is to deepen the Nigerian conversation. We'd like to hear from you at home as well. If you've got questions for the panel or comments about the conversation, we'd like to hear them. You can engage with us using the social media details on your screen. This is the first year, a town hall production by Daria Media, which is brought to you with the support of the MacArthur Foundation. My name's Camry Apollo. I'll be your host for the conversation along with my colleague, Zainab Balogun. She will handle questions from our audience here in the studio and from you at home. But before I introduce my panel, we will hear from Dr. Kole Sheptima, Country Director of the MacArthur Foundation.
Thank you very much, moderator, and welcome to our viewers from all over the world and those who have joined us this morning. On behalf of the MacArthur Foundation, we're very excited to be part of this process. It's a process where we support a number of government institutions and society to improve the quality of governance in our country. And I'm happy that this morning we are here to discuss one of the key important issues in the minds of all Nigerians, in fact, all over the world. It's an issue that all bothers us as well. And thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sheptima. Now, I know you're expecting me.
Belong to you, dear people. Love and cherish it as your very own. Nigeria is yours. Nigeria is remarkable in its formation and essential character. We are a broad and dynamic blend of ethnic groups, religious, tradition, and cultures. Yet, our bonds are yet intangible, strong, invisible, yet universal. At my inauguration, I made important promises about how I will govern this nation. We have embarked on a several sectoral reform to stabilize the economy, direct physical and monetary policy to fight inflation, encourage production, ensure the security of lives and property, and lend more support to the poor and the vulnerable. My administration shall always accord the highest power to the safety of the people. Inter-service collaboration and intelligence sharing have been enhanced. Our service chiefs have been tasked with the vital responsibility of rebuilding the capacity of our security services. Here, I salute and commend our gallant security forces for keeping us safe and securing our territorial integrity. Many have paid the ultimate sacrifice. We remember them today and their families. We shall equip our forces with the ways and means needed to perform their urgent task on behalf of the people. We can only achieve our better Nigeria through courage, compassion, commitment as one indivisible unit. I promise that I shall remain committed and serve faithfully. I also invite all to join this enterprise to make our beloved nation into its better self. We can do it. We must do it. We shall do it. I wish you
Welcome back. First year, my name is Camille Pollard. I know you're expecting me to now introduce the prestigious panel of ministers who are to engage in this conversation with you. Unfortunately, they didn't make it. We are as disappointed as you are, but the show must go on. I'm pleased to introduce a distinguished panel of experts who we hope will do justice to this discussion. Dr. Kabir Adam is the founder and chief executive officer of Beacon Consulting. He's an expert on enterprise security risk management, intelligence, and national security strategy and policy. Joining us on the panel as well is retired Brigadier General Sani Kuksheka Usman. He's an expert in public relations, and he's a former director of Army Public Relations of the Nigerian Army. And on his right is Brigadier General, Major General Sali Bana, the president of WISER. And on his right at the very end is Group Captain Sadiq Garbasheru. He's a private security and defense expert. He's also a former head of security at The African. Thank you so much for that time to be with us this morning to talk about something which is very, very heavy on the minds of millions of Nigerians. Welcome, welcome once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, in his renewed hope agenda, President Tinubu identified seven core areas that he said, if properly implemented, if implemented strategically, um, these targeted interventions can change our situation for the better. And the seven key areas are, number one, bolster security forces, to also redefine military doctrine and practice, also to secure critical national infrastructure, achieve peaceful communities, secure our borders, and uh, integrated identity management. This is a serious one. We'll come to these as we go through the conversation. And also international collaboration, and finally, to reposition the police. These areas, he says, if properly implemented, will change our situation for the better as far as security is concerned in Nigeria. Now, my first question, my first question goes to retired Brigadier General Sani Kukusheka Osman. You've been a spokesperson for the Army, so we're hoping once again to benefit from your skill of communicating what's actually going on so that we can get the necessary understanding and succor that we feel. There's a lot of fear in the land, lots of uncertainty, many pockets where there's hardly any presence of governance. So naturally, Nigerians are concerned. What's going on? I'll ask a very direct question. Is Nigeria at war with crime and criminality?
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I think the short and long answer to your question, the answer is yes, but an undeclared war. However, given the happenings, particularly recently, you can understand that we have had, and we are still having security challenges that over 2 decades ago, we wouldn't have ever imagined that this country would experience such. Take, for instance, the insurgency manifested by the activities of Boko Haram and its various splinter groups. Now we have the banditry, kidnapping, we're even talking about cyber crime and a host of others, such as secessionist agitations under normal circumstances. A nation that is so endured, so blessed, that has fought civil war, if put together as one united nation, some of these security challenges we shouldn't have been having them to the unprecedented level as it is. Take, for instance, we had instances where Boko Haram pervaded some part of our territory, declared a caliphate, and now we have bandits, extorting, constituting an authority over certain, areas of our country. So invariably, when you look at what do you call a war, or what do you understand by war? Definition is declaration of violence against, the state. And yes, the state has responded in different measures for obvious reasons. Take, for instance, the fight against terrorism and insurgency. There were complaints of human rights abuses and all the rest. And the same thing with banditry and kidnapping, to the point that the previous administration had to declare them as terrorists so that they can be dealt with appropriately using the necessary caliber of weapons. Hence, they also possess higher caliber of weapons as against previous instances where they were using small and medium arms. So, take or leave, we are at war. It has not been declared.
Okay. Second follow-up question: how do you rate our capacity to prosecute what is clearly on our table right now? Are we doing the best we can as a country? I'm not just talking about the military.
Well, the capacity is there, but I think the thing is that there are certain missing components when you are dealing with security challenges of this nature. Take, for instance, the terrorism agency. Um, you tend to, or rather, we tend to emphasize more on the kinetic aspect, more or less the stick aspect, as against the stick. But the truth is that when you are putting counter insurgency measures or counter terrorism measures, the kinetic aspect or the military component of coercive institutions is insignificant compared to other components of dealing with the insurgents. Take, for instance, if you are putting it on the scale of 100%, the non-kinetic aspect, I mean, the kinetic aspect is a little bit, maybe between 35 to 40%. So what happened to the 60%? And that is where the link is. But it is not just insurgency, even other security challenges. Take, for instance, banditry and kidnapping. Some of them, they are they have their root causes from, competition for limited resources. And to what extent are you addressing those issues? Because there is limit to which the security agencies can perform in dealing with the security challenges. So
Okay.
what happened to
Pardon the interruption, General. We'll pick it up from there. Let me just hold you there for now because we'll unpack some of these other tangential issues as we go along. I'd like
okay?
to come now to Dr. Kabir Adamu. Um, the ability to procure arms and ammunition. We've seen this. This conversation has been present in the media space for quite a long time. We run to friends in the hope of securing ammunition, arms, and munitions to prosecute our war on security. We met with disappointments, and that's been changing gradually in some certain areas. But recently, the president signed the DICON bill, the Industries Corporation of Nigeria bill, into law, and I believe over $1 billion has been expended so far in deals with Turkey, with India, with the United Arab Emirates. So the whole idea is to build our capacity to manufacture weapons here in Nigeria and build it up to about 40%. Should we attain this 40% capacity to produce our own munitions, what do we expect? How do we expect this to impact the current war on insecurity? What are we to expect?
Thank you very much. I honestly wasn't expected to be on this side of the table. I thought I would be on that side based on the invitation. So maybe let me start with apologizing on behalf of those who were supposed to be on this side, and then I'm thanking those who have, agreed to this contingency arrangement. Yes, you referred earlier on to the Hope agenda. And in that document, the president made a promise. Let's remember that that is the manifesto of the ruling All Progressive Congress, and they made a promise in that document that by 2027 we will be able to produce 40% of our weapons and ammunition requirement. And using that single policy initiative, if we're going to measure what they've been able to do, I think the administration deserves some commendation. Immediately after the president was sworn in, he did visit India, United Arab Emirates, and then I think Turkey, where on all of those three occasions, he signed partnership agreements with those countries. And then, of course, the Daikon deal that you spoke about, those are the necessary, uh, the foundation that would allow us to achieve this policy imperative of producing 40% of our requirement. Now, if you look at that, there are so many ways to look at it. Number one, the monies that are expended in the procurement of these weapons. If we reduce that monies, it could go to other developmental needs. Secondly, um, our dependence on other countries also allow them rather to influence the direction that we follow in our both in our counter-terrorism and other security initiatives that are followed. We want to procure weapons, conditions of what to use those weapons for, but if we produce them, it means we can use them for the purposes for which we thought we can contextualize the production to meet the peculiarities of our environment. There are certain weapons that unfortunately are not ideal for this very environment, but if we produce them locally, we can contextualize them. Then I think thirdly, rather corruption will be reduced. It's not, I don't think I'll be the first one mentioning it, that procurement, not just in security or defense sector, is mired in corruption. So having that capacity and ability to produce locally will definitely help in that regard. But again, we're saying 2027, but just in 2024. So hopefully, as we progress, as the administration seeks to ensure that this agreement that it has signed into, as well as the production facilities that we have locally, meet these aspirations. We're hoping that by 2027 we will see that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Adam. General Bola, let's take a step back now and go back to the initial documents. That's the renewed scope agenda of this administration, the 7 areas I listed at the beginning of the conversation. Um, the document presented to Nigerians, the promise contained in that document is to bolster security forces, to redefine our practice, secure critical national infrastructure. Let me just take these three and get your thoughts on how well they are doing in this regard, these 3 areas.
Thank you very much. Um, I think this is the core of the conversation because I have an infantry background and I know holding the ground is an important aspect of any operation. The need for boots on the ground, which is primarily in every scheming of operation, is the foremost factor. Then you talk about arming and equipping, and also the follow-on of the logistics, to feed and sustain troop operations. So it's really a huge field. As much as the conversation is about really bolstering the capacity of the Nigerian armed forces to be able to deal with the very spiraling, protracted violence we are seeing all across the country. The first thing to talk about actually is how much of the humans who do the operations are on paper and actually on the ground to do it. I'm aware that even before this government, there have been efforts actually to recruit more people with the intent to deploy them to operations. But how these personnel are deployed and how also the economy is able to adequately arm and equip this personnel to be able to appropriately deploy to deal with the irritations that we have is the question. Fourth generation, as any student of the War College will tell you, is actually a factor of the assessment of the threat and the economy of the nation. Because there are realities. Insurgencies or terrorism in our war colleges, we teach them, we tell our students that they are called the long war. I quickly give an example when I'm speaking in a place like this because it's controversial. You know, that our religions are actually a form of insurgency because the more the state persecutes the idea, which is over an insurgency, the more recruits you have. So, in proportion, you need a ratio of forces to be able to suppress this idea or the insurgents who are carrying out this. And there is a ratio of force that you need because there is a ratio of force you need to actually protect the people, because that is the primacy of government, to be able to protect the citizens. And it is such that to protect 1,000 citizens, you need 21 forces to be able to protect those forces, to be able to protect the citizens, because you need armed men, you need intelligence, you need police, and it goes beyond to border protection and so on and so forth. So taking a setting like Maiduguri, like the North, where just for IDPs, as way back as the information was at 2014, 2015, you had about 3.5 million displaced people. So make the ratio of how many forces you really require to protect those people alone, and how much the economy will require to equip, to recruit, equip, train, and sustain those forces
to achieve the desired
to
result.
achieve the desired. So it
Yes.
is nice politics to come out and speak within a tenure of 4 years that you will be able to generate capacity to protect the state. But there is a reality to which issues of ideology, which transmute into violent extremism and into insurgencies, as we are seeing here, requires politics to direct itself to implementing development. And you know, development is a huge gamut of things.
Okay. We'll come back to you again, Bola.
Sorry if I'm sounding as a general, but it's very academic.
No. It's fine. It's fine. Thank you so much for your thoughts. We'll continue from there. I just want to quickly touch with Group Captain Sadiq Garbasheru. Again, back to the same 7 points that were identified by the Renewed Hope agenda. They talked about achieving peaceful communities, securing our borders and forests, and also integrated identity database. I'd like to speak on those, how you feel we have fared in that regard. We just have 3 minutes. I will balance up your timing and contribution when we return from a break. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Am I loud? You Okay. The question you asked me, I would like to take off where my I will have stood there. You talk of protecting communities. Protect communities, like he said, I will also emphasize, you need a minimum number of people. He just gave us what is called the Collivans force density. That if you want to protect an irregular warfare, for every population of 1,000, you need at least 20. Now, the problem I find is that up to now, I have what is the number of military personnel and police personnel that we actually need for our population. From there, you can work. Certainly, because there's always both versus arms. How much we defense and security? Poor people don't have schools, they don't have roads. So it's a balance. Have to, that is the starting point. We are not, if you talk about protecting the communities, you have to talk about what numbers do we need. And when we look at Nigeria, being a country that we pride ourselves on inspirations, regional and continental leadership, of course, apart even from the threats that are within the country, we want to be seen in international peacekeeping operations. We want to be seen as fighting in Mali, we send people there. So all this, I think the policymakers have to sit down and say, If these are the needs that we have for security, how many forces? I do not see that debate. And secondly, when you talk about identity, yes, identity is very, very important. But what do we have in the management of identity? Even if you are registering a business now, we have so much duplication and fragmentation. In some countries, your simple national identity card serves everything. But now, in Nigeria, we have a lot of duplication and fragmentation, and also that takes a lot of the money that's needed. We need to have a document. Like that, if I show my national ID card, all my data everywhere, everything is there. I don't need to have I think they say, where's my driving license? Where's my name number? Where's one identity piece to be able to do the work. Now, secondly, again, even though you didn't ask me that question, I think what I see missing in the agenda, or rather that we are not in that number one, fostering security. We talked about I talk about security sector reform. Security sector reform is something that we have been talking since during Obasanjo administration. But in my honest opinion, the political will to really reform the security sector is not there. Because when you talk about security sector reform, we are in a democracy. You should be able to see democratic control of the armed forces. I'm talking frankly here. Democratic control of armed forces means that it is the civilian elected officials that will decide the shape of the security forces, the kind of operations they should have, how much money they should be given, and what they do with the money. With due respect, I do not see that happen. If you want to be very specific, you have you compare the ministries. This is my own opinion, by the way. I think after General Tiwa and Juma, we never had any ministry that really had power over the armed forces. That is my opinion. Because you have the minister, but the power or the the control over the armed forces, others can be debated. We've seen it didn't start with even the ministers that served under President Muhammad Buhari, they struggled to control the armed forces. If you do not understand it, that president, especially the president of an African country, he's president for agriculture, president for works and housing, president for health. So if you expect the president that it's only him that will supervise the military, because that is probably what we are having now. We are going to have a lot of things escaping through the cracks. You need to appoint a minister that you trust, but not only after appointing him, you give him the necessary powers to really supervise the ministry. I can draw this, for example, if you see what Diamu is doing in the Ministry of Aviation, how he's dealing with due respect, I do not think the Minister of Defense and his
Okay,
deputy have these powers to
forgive the
do this.
interruption. We'll
Yeah.
take a quick break. Don't forget to join the conversation. Don't forget you can join the conversation by using the social media handles on your screen. And we'll hear from our studio panel here on the other areas of this very important document the administration has put forward in the renewed agenda. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
You are running constitutional democracy. I will appeal you to summon the governors, summon them, call them up. I'm doing my best to improve the revenue of the country and giving them their due. But they must equally be sympathetic to the population and they must consider the need of the local people. People reside in the local government. People are in the local community. That is where they reside. That is where they feed. That is where they garden. That is where they cook. That's where they farm. if the local government are not free and the leaders don't hang on to the number, we have 77,774 local government. It's just a number. Effective. Is it reaching the real people? Who is being held accountable for this money?
Maya Angelou, civil rights activist, poet, and award-winning author, known for her acclaimed 1969 memoir, Why the Bird Sings, and her numerous poetry and essay collections. Angela was born on April 4, 1928, in St. Louis, Missouri. Angela had a difficult childhood. Her parents split up when she was very young. Around the 1960s, Angela lived in Ghana, working as an editor and a freelance writer. Angela also held a position at the University of Ghana for a time before she joined a community of revolutionist exploring Pan-Africanism and became close with human rights activist and black nationalist leader Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. In 1961, Angela appeared in an off-Broadway production of Jean Bennett's The Blacks with James L. Jones, Lou Gossett Jr., and Cicely Tyson, who went on to earn a Tony Award nomination for her role in the play Look Away in 1973 and an Emmy Award nomination for her work on the television miniseries Roots 1977, among other honors. Angela's career has seen numerous accolades, including the Chicago International Film Festival's 1998 Audience Choice Award and an award from the Acapulco Black Film Festival in 1999.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have your attention. If you have questions, you'd like to
and literary work, non-fiction category for her 2005 book and 2008 Letter to My Daughter. After experiencing health issues for a number of years, Angelo died on 8 2014 at her home in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. In May 2021, it was announced that Angela will be one of the first women to be commemorated with a new quarters from the U.S. Mint.
welcome back to the Adaria Media Production, brought to you with the support of the Carter Foundation. My name is Camry Apollo. We're discussing security and governance so far under the administration of President Bola Tinubu. I'll come back round now to Dr. Kabir Adamu on the panel. So, Dr. Adamu, we've had a look at the Renewed Hope agenda and the areas, the strategic areas the agenda intends to address to give us the security we deserve in our country. Now, I would like to hear from you. Are these the areas the administration should be pushing for? What are your thoughts? Is it working?
So I would answer from two points of view. Looking at the policy imperatives as stated in the Renewed Hope agenda, I'm quite delighted with what has been mentioned, with the president's statements, some of which you highlighted earlier on, and then that at every opportunity he gets, he mentions. Just a few days ago, on the issue of oil theft, he gave a very clear directive. And I think that's the kind of political leadership that we need. So from that point of view, I'm quite delighted. However, sadly, when you look at the numbers unfortunately are not looking too good. I do have in my company
an intelligence unit where we put numbers together. We know, for instance, that in the month of May, over 1,000 Nigerians were killed. We also know that in the month of June, another 1,000 Nigerians have been killed. When we put the numbers together, over 5,000 Nigerians have been killed between January and June. So I honestly don't know any parameter that you use to measure that as good. In other words, there is need for improvement to bring that numbers. That is what would show Nigerians that we're making progress. This week in Zamfara, in Katsina, Niger, Kaduna, communities are paying levies to non-state actors who are challenging the supremacy of the use of force by the state. We can't have that. It's an indication of the failure of the security apparatus to protect communities. If non-state actors can come to those communities, demand for payment for their livelihood, this payment is not about anything but to allow these individuals go to their farm, to allow them to harvest what they've farmed. So it's quite worrisome. If you look at the mining sector, where swaths of land are being controlled by these non-state actors to allow whoever it is that wants to mine the resources that are there. It's also another indication. So all of these are realities. On the one hand, you have these beautiful policies that virtually everybody that I know who has looked at them is happy with them. But then on the other hand, you've got this unfortunate situation where security is at an abysmal state in our communities. Now, what do I think is missing? I think the theme of this conversation is apt: governance and security. Security sector governance. When I look back from May 2023 to May 2024, I think the National Security Council met only once. There are several other councils, the Defense Council, the State Council, name of them, that frankly I do not think they start. I think when the Inspector General of Police was to be appointed, the Police Council did sit. But other than that, several other things happened. We have a situation where there is a presidential directive for the recruitment of 20,000 policemen that has not been achieved within 1 year. And the two agencies that have the mandate to do that, unfortunately, currently, in some form of disagreement.
So we need to bolster police forces as well as
the entire security apparatus. The policy imperative is to enhance the capacity of our security organizations. Capacity can be looked at from different angles. One is the number of persons that would be recruited. Number two is the equipment repository that they need, financing, and several other things. So all of these are key things. Point I'm trying to make is that the strategic direction that would allow there are about 29 ministries, departments, and agencies in the security sector to work together to achieve what Section 14, subsection 2 of the Constitution says, which is the provision of security to our communities. Unfortunately, it's missing currently, and it can be enhanced upon.
Okay. Come now to General Osman. As an overview, are we steering in this right direction?
In the right direction in terms of security or governance?
In terms of security and governance.
Well, I think it's more or less yes, but it's still kind of work in progress, in the sense that just like Dr. Kabiru has just given several instances, the truth is that fantastic policies, but what is the reality on the ground? And in most instances, all these non-state actors, they are just filling a vacuum. And that is why you are having all the manifestation of the security challenges you have. Therefore, the issue of collaboration, interagency coordination, collaboration is very key. And that is why you are having this issue. Take, for instance, the criminal justice system. What is the level of relationship between the components? Let's say our policing system and our correctional services. And beyond that, the intelligence community, yes, there are people who are statutorily responsible for it, but Are the end users, have they been given that, and did you follow through to understand that what you have produced has been used, optimally? But beyond that, again, even the end users, to what extent have you repositioned them, to perform their duties credibly? Now we are talking about the numbers. We are talking about training. We are talking about equipment. And let's even go back and look at our policing system. Within the last 25 years that we have been enjoying democratic governance, to what extent have we invested in our policing system? Now, I am privileged to have been to several countries, many, and I realize there are certain countries without armed forces, but there is no single country in this world, including the Vatican, that doesn't have a police force. A policing system. So what happened to our own? It is the neglect of the policing system over time that brought about the problems that we're having. So you can think of us being on the right direction, but we are not there yet. Take, for instance, so many policies, the community policing. Where is it? And Kabir has talked about whenever you are talking about policies and all this right direction, the starting point is the legal framework. There are encumbrances that need to be unbundled. If you look at the Nigerian police force now, you have the police council, which is a constitutional provision. To what extent has it has it sat over the last 10 years or 20 years? Then you have the Ministry for Police Affairs. Then you have the Police Service Commission. Then you have the force headquarters. So this kind of thing, they are, encumbering the performance of these people. So if you are talking about right direction, you have to look at those impediments that prevent people from moving, or achieving the desired goals and objectives, even if they are moving on the right direction. But I'm just using the policing force. But then you look at the other components of the Nigerian society, because whenever you are talking about security challenges, it's predicated on three things: the political atmosphere, the economic atmosphere, as well as the social well-being of the Nigerian society. Because these things are complementary. To what extent I have said we are thinking about components of Nigerian society, to what extent have you empowered an average Nigerian for him or her to have a sense of belonging, to understand that he or she is an equal partner in dealing with security challenges in this country? This is the issue. So the two go hand in glove. It goes back to the issue of governance. One of the most critical aspects, we have three tiers of government in this country, and I must give kudos to the Supreme Court for the recent judgment. We have the federal government, we have the state government, we have the local government system. We all know it, that the local government system is comatose. It only exists in issuing citizenship when you are going for recruitment or when you are going for employment. And I made mention of the fact that all these non-state actors, they are always filling a vacuum, because security challenges that started at local level could have been dealt with before you push it to state. The state will overwhelm the federal government. Even the, the banditry and kidnapping, it is the simple, hardest farmers' conflict that was mishandled. Had it been that the local government system is working, the people of Ansar, where it started, could have dealt with it before it snowballed into. The same thing with insurgency. Take, for instance, what happened in 2009. The military were called during President Yar'Adwa's time. They dealt decisively with it. The kingpin, or rather the Boko Haram leader, was arrested, handed over. But what happened? Extrajudicial killing. So these are some of the things until, over-educate, we are still having it. So basically, when you are talking about the right direction, you have to also put other components in place, particularly the taking into consideration the God-given resources of this country. It is not the mineral. What makes Nigeria great is the human resources. But
Human resources.
unfortunately, we have not harnessed it and empowered it, educated, to a level that could contribute in dealing with these security challenges. So we are going, but at the same time, so much needs to be done in that regard.
Thank you, General Usman. We'll come to General Bala for his input overview. What are your thoughts, and based on what your two colleagues have mentioned?
Thank you very much. I intend to put this to the public that one of the beauty of democracy is that it has invested absolute power and supremacy in non-professionals that make the political leadership over professionals. And power, what power does actually, it either blinds you or deafens you. And you expect in this sexified phrase of subservience to civil authority that the professional only comes as a subservient to power, and that a professional is someone to only listen to when you want to. But it is important to understand that the professionals are really the dynamics that process that value of the democratic good for the people. So, since 1999, when I was a young major, from my studies, this is what is progressing. That the political class has total and overwhelming power, knowledge, and command over the professionals. And this is what is eating into the several sectors of our national life. Be it the medical, you have a novice who is probably a lawyer sent into the Ministry of Health, and he tells doctors how they will be paid, how they will not be paid, what medicaments should be bought, what equipment must be bought. And it is worse when you come with this attitude towards the managers of the instrument of violence of any nation. There are people you must, I emphasize that with a loud voice, listen to, because not by any fluke, they are the only professionals who at the age of 16, 17, 18 have signed off their lives to the nation. They are fathers, they are mothers, they are uncles. We cry. We are human beings. It is not to arrogate that we are the most patriotic. No, but we are the most that knows what it means to die for someone. So it is important that the political class, for as much as they are non-professionals, in the US today, there is a senator that was a Uber driver. That is the beauty of democracy. That is how democracy invests power in otherwise people who know next to nothing about what they are doing. But it's democracy. So it is important as an advisory, I will speak to the benefit of my sector, that the political leaders should please listen to the professionals, allow them to be directed to the proper places to do the right procurement. You don't go and procure arms and ammunition that do not fit the rifles we are using, vehicles that you buy that you even have to import.
Has this happened, purchasing ammunition that is inappropriate for the weapons?
Absolutely, yes. Without attribution. We have had a history of that. But most of all, I give you an example. You can't have our soldiers, for God's sake, fighting insurgencies in Hilux vehicles. That is an absolute aberration.
Because the foremost in any operational planning is force protection. When you do the civil casualty evaluation because of collateral damage, you have to synthesize how much of your operation will weld on innocent civilians because the intent is to protect them. The next one is force protection. Because you want to, for God's sake, go out with a minimum of 11 men and come back with 11 men so that their wives and children will cheer and embrace them. That is the principle of command leadership. But you cannot be proliferating Hilux vehicles and deploying 11, 20 soldiers to cover 100 to 200 kilometers radius of operations. And people who do not know will laugh at our soldiers running. Yes, the soldier tactically withdraws. The soldier doesn't run. And then you have to capacitate at various levels. We've been talking about police here. I want to challenge you when you are driving back to your homes. From the moment you leave this place to wherever your home is, count the number of policemen you see on the streets and give me a feedback. But each time your counselor or his wife is going to the market, count the number of policemen around them. This is the reality as a people. This is the reality as a people that we should start talking about. It is okay, my younger brother.
General Bola, forgive the interruption. I'm trying to manage the time as best as possible.
Okay.
We will have enough time to cover some of the solutions going forwards. The cogent points made here, I'm sure, will be taken to the right ears. That's the whole point of this town hall. But let me quickly turn it now to Group Captain Asheu for his overview and inputs. Where can we improve? Sorry, beg pardon. Before you go on, we just have a few minutes, but again, I will compensate. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I will align with my colleagues here who said that, security governance or security, it's not a
I think we need your microphone.
Okay.
And if we could be a bit closer to
Can you hear me?
Much better.
Changing the security situation that is inherited by this government is not a straightforward race. Sometimes you go forward, sometimes you have reversals, you come back. However, if you want to achieve success in any enterprise, you need to have monitoring and evaluation. Anything that you don't measure, you can never know whether you're improving or not. And here, what I want to see, is given timelines, given deliverables. We have a lot of agencies, including the agency led by Dr. Kabir Adamu here, who keep monthly or weekly or yearly or quarterly records. I think the government should as well avail itself and put those indices to see where are we coming from, where have we gone, and give the people that you have given this responsibility, the responsibility to report back regularly. Here again, I have to come back still to the issue of oversight. When you say in a democracy, you have the security forces, they have their work, but the elected officials, it is their work to oversight. And oversight includes giving the resources that are going to be used for the security, but not only giving the resources, following the money to see every kobo, every naira, was it used as intended? And also in the agenda set up by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the issue of reform. He promised that he will continue reforms started by the Buhari administration. I know for a fact several committees have been set up for the reform of the armed forces. Almost all the problems we are talking about today, they are there in the recommendation of that committee. But with due respect, nothing has been done. Again, I talk of a feeling of lack of political will to really tamper with the security agencies. And the political masters cannot run away from that responsibility. The Nigerian populace, they did not vote for IGP. They did not vote for Chief of Defense Staff. They did not vote for Chief of Army Staff. They voted for these politicians. So it is up to them, to ensure this concept of democratic control of the armed forces, they do it. To ensure that they reform the armed forces, because all this is what are saying about reform. Architects talk about form dictates function. The shape of anything should dictate the way what it's going to do. If you look at our armed forces, if you look at our police, it is completely out of shape for what we are expecting it to do. Now, until you repair that shape, you are not going to get, the good deliverables that you are going to find out. So what I am calling on is that because when you talk of security sector reform, it's not only the operational part, the oversight part, all the ministries and departments, and also try and eliminate duplication and multiplication. We started this debate with a good proposal that the president has signed, the DICON Act. Yes, we are talking about, capacity to produce our own arms. Within the same security sector, the DICON is supposed to do, if you look at DICON Act, the first thing that mentioned there is research and development on military-related items. But then again, you have another defense research and defense and research bureau. This is where we fritter our security, budget by giving multiplicity of, agencies having the same thing. We do not have enough police. Already our legislators again are talking about, there is this contraption they're talking about. I can't remember the name. Is it Peace Corps? You have an under-resourced police. Instead of you to concentrate, bringing the police up to strength, you want to bring another Peace Corps. But then, with due respect, you wonder whether some people that are in charge of this and they have this, the interest of the country at heart. Because we've been saying we don't have enough police. We've been saying we don't have enough military people. But whenever the budget comes, I challenge anybody to look at the budgets of these agencies. Do you see emphasis being put in recruitment? No. You see the money going to other things, building universities, renovation, construction. You do not see, even a kidnapping driver knows that we don't have enough soldiers and we do not have enough police. We've been saying this for 2019, but there is no concerted effort to beef up these numbers. Historians tell us that when the Civil War broke, within 1 year, the Nigerian armed forces quadrupled. Why are we not doing the same thing now that we're facing security challenges?
Good question. And I think on that note, we'll transition to a break. We will take a quick break. And when we return, my colleague, Zainab Balogun Olowu, will handle questions from our studio audience and social media. You too can be a part of the conversation by using the social media handles on your screen. So don't go anywhere. The first year continues right after this break.
Your unwavering dedication to safeguarding lives and maintaining national security is evident in the successes achieved in recent operations, reaffirming our resolve to protect the nation and their country.
And with what has happened in Goza and what is also happening in other areas, our operations are going according to plan. And these operations in the Northeast in particular in recent times have targeted the leadership of the terrorist groups. We have depleted their resources and we have also reduced their influence and their support base.
The past 12 months, to enhance our against these threats of terrorism, insurgency, banditry, and other criminal activities, we have re-strategized and adopted new air power measures in line with my command philosophy, which is to transform the Nigerian Air Force into an agile and resilient force that effectively meets the air power demands of national security in all operational environments. Nigerian Air Force so far has achieved modest yet significant progress in fighting insurgency, terrorism, banditry, oil theft, and other criminal activities in the country.
The Inspector General of Police has met with senior officers to review the state of security. We are continuing our coverage of the arrest of Godwin Emefiele.
The Senate has summoned the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to properly brief the Senate regarding the state of the economy.
President Bola Tinubu has announced the total removal of fuel subsidy
the first subsidy is gone. What I will never take is threat.
Let's now bring you more development from Ibadan, the your state capital, where an explosion has taken place. Tell us about this incident.
TVC News. First, with breaking news.
Albert Chinua Lumogu Achebe was born November 16, 1930 in Ogidi, Nigeria. He went to Government College in Umuahia, Nigeria. In 1948, Achebe won a scholarship to the University of Ibadan to study medicine, but after a year, he changed his major to writing. After graduation in 1953, he became a script writer for the Nigerian Broadcasting Service (NBS), eventually becoming the head programmer for the discussion series. In 1956, he visited London for the first time to take a training course with the BBC. On returning, he moved to Enugu and edited and produced stories for the NBS. Achebe was unhappy with books about Africa written by British authors such as Joseph Conrad and John Buchan because he felt the descriptions of African people were inaccurate and insulting. In his spare time, he worked on Things Fall Apart. The novel was published in 1958. The book won immediate international recognition and also became the basis for a play. His second book, No Longer at Ease, published in 1960, is set in the last decade before Nigeria achieved independence. In 1961, Chinua Achebe met and married Christiana Chinwe Okoli, and they eventually had 4 children. The third book in the African trilogy, Arrow of God, was published in 1964. Achebe published his 4th novel, A Man of the People, in 1966. The novel tells the story of the widespread corruption of Nigerian politicians and ends in a military coup. During the Biafra conflict, Achebe's house was bombed and his friend Christopher Okimu was killed. Achebe and his family went into hiding in Biafra and then fled to Britain for the duration of the war. From 1972 to 1976, Achebe held a visiting professorship in African literature at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. After that, he returned again to teach at the University of Nigeria. He became chair of the Association of Nigerian Writers and edited Uwandi Igbo, a journal of Igbo life and culture. Although he wrote many essays and kept involved with the writing community, Achebe did not write another book until 1988's Anthills of the Savannah. In 1990, Achebe was involved in a car crash in Nigeria, which damaged his spine so badly he was paralyzed from the waist down. Bard College in New York offered him a teaching job and the facilities to make that possible, and he taught there from 1991 to 2009. In 2009, Achebe became a professor of African Studies at Brown University. In 2012, he published the essay, There Was a Country, a personal history of Biafra. Achebe won the Man Booker International Prize for his life's work in 2007 and received more than 30 honorary doctorates. He remained critical of the corruption of Nigerian politicians, condemning those that stole or squandered the nation's oil reserves. In addition to his own literary success, he was a passionate and active supporter of African writers. However, Achebe died in Boston, Massachusetts on March 21, 2013, after a brief illness. He is credited with changing the face of world literature by presenting the effects of European colonization from the point of view of Africans. He specifically wrote in English, a choice that received some criticism, but his intent was to speak to the whole world about the real problems that the influence of Western missionaries and colonialists created in Africa. His life was an inspiration and sentimental to Western culture, promoting customs and values about traditional African society.
Welcome back to The First Year, a Daria Media production brought to you with the support of the MacArthur Foundation. My name is Camry Apollo. So we've been discussing security and governance with our panel of experts. We had invited cabinet ministers and security agency heads, but they didn't make it. At this point, I will turn it over to my colleague, Zainab Balogun Olowu, who will take audience questions and also bring us up to speed with comments and contributions on social media. Zainab?
Thank you so much, Camry. Thank you so much. It's been an insightful.
Mike.
All right, thank you so much, Camry. It's been an insightful conversation thus far. But we cannot have this conversation without the input of Nigerians. So we'll be taking questions, comments, contributions from our physical audience and those online. For you at home, all you have to do is send your messages to our various social media platforms showing right across your screens. And don't forget to use the hashtag #TheBestYear. All right, so I'll give some ground rules. Once you have the floor, please introduce yourself. You only have to ask one question because of time, so that's 1 minute. So we can take as many questions as possible. I also urge our panelists as well, 2 minutes, to answer the questions so we can take as many questions as possible. Thank you very much. All right, so we'll begin with you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Tom Okewale Shonaya. Thank you very much, panel. I quickly want to make a comment before I ask my question. And I had to articulate this, and I'm speaking on behalf of Nigerians. Today, we confront a troubling manifestation of impunity. The absence of government officials is not merely about missed opportunities for dialogue, but it reflects deeper challenges that erode accountability and trust in our governance systems. This is an independent, credible platform to engage our leaders that we have voted in. We came here to engage them. We want them to tell us what they have done in the last 1 year. It is an opportunity for them to even campaign to us for next year. There is a global meltdown. The United Kingdom is struggling. We know that. The cost of housing is rising. We know that. But we owe them, they owe us a duty to come here. And we are not happy with them. It's zero tolerance, it's lack of accountability, and we need to demand a response from our ministers. Thank you. So today marks 10 years and 93 days since our Chibok girls were captured. And we are still demanding the release of about 91 of them. Leah Sharibu's case is over 6 years now. The impact of this on the education of girls, especially in northern Nigeria, cannot be overlooked, as both cases had connections with schools. Regardless of location, urban or rural, Nigerian women do not feel safe. Security issues, like you have all, our experts here have mentioned, in Nigeria as it concerns women and the whole of Nigeria is enormous. In March, a couple of months ago, 200 women were abducted at an IDP camp in Borno State. Would they be in IDPs if not for the ravaging insecurity? And to compound their pain, they get abducted from the IDPs too. A police officer at Ogudu police station in Lagos allegedly raped a 17-year-old girl. Women and Nigerians and girls do not feel safe. We've all spoken about it. What is the way forward? What is the solution? That's what we want us to tell them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We have someone on that end.
Assalamu alaikum. God bless everybody who is here. My question is about the security. These bandits, their places are known. Why didn't the security go there and destroy them instead of leaving them to do what they want? And secondly, security cannot be without people giving them food. And so why didn't the security do something about those people who are providing them with food and ammunition? And thirdly, our people are dying of hunger. We are suffering, and our leaders doesn't care about what is going on about us. If you can buy a bag of rice for 60 to 70,000 naira, a taba of yam 6,000, what is the government doing? Your salary will be 50,000. What can you buy with 50,000 for a month? So Nigeria must wake up and do something about this insecurity because it is destroying our economy, it is destroying our people, it is killing our children.
All right,
Our
thank you so
security
much.
and health is gone.
All right, thank you so much for your question. We'll take the last question from the man at the back. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Senator Yorubu, convener Geopolitics Series. So, my question is about because having worked closely with some of our security chiefs, there's constant thing I've heard and complain about this issue of disconnect between what the security agencies are doing and the populace. So they feel a lack of support from the populace. So what can we do to encourage the whole of society approach to tackling insecurity, which is a big issue? So, and one of the panelists have talked about that is the elected officials that will set the tempo for the security agents to really thrive. And
I
then,
think we have your question already.
okay,
All right,
yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, so I'll address the first question, talking about women in IDPs, what's going on. I'll address that to Group Captain. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That question about IDPs and also it touched on the security of schools. Again, we have to continue telling the government, this issue of providing security, like in the Northeast, we must recognize that almost maybe up to 80 or 90% of the area in the Northeast has been, covered by the armed forces, and there are no longer this. But then the question is, if there are at most when you look at the research, some people say 2 local governments, some people say 3, some say 4. So you wonder why can't we concentrate forces and then enter into those remaining local governments? Probably that is where Le Sharibu is and the other children that are there. So I think again, I still come back to the military should not decide on itself what it will do. The political masters, it is their duty, and I still insist. I see this reticence of the political masters to direct the security forces, do this within certain time limit with the proviso that we have given you the equipment, the necessary to do, then give us results. That is one. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Group
So,
Captain.
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So again, on the issue of security of our schools, again, we are paying lip service to this safe school declaration. I am here in Abuja. I have seen fantastic launching by the Nigerian police of safe school. I have seen fantastic launching by civil defense of national police. But in the actual schools on the ground, what do we have about safe schools? Anybody who travels by road, you see a school with no fence, with no gate, in the middle of nowhere. Meanwhile, in Abuja here, we're having launches upon launches upon launches, media call that we have launched this, we have launched that. So please, we have to move from paying lip service to this safe school declaration and actually provide concrete security for our children, because our children are our future.
All right,
Thank you
Group
very
Captain.
much.
I mean, I would have loved to take you up on that as well. The IDPs talking about that. We see some of these women say they want to go back to their captors because they're not being treated well. And I think that's part of what she was also saying.
For that, unfortunately, this is something that has to do with psychology. There's this thing they call Stockholm Syndrome. When a lady is taken even by her ravisher or by her abductor, with the passage of time, some interpersonal bonds get developed between her and this person. Before to her, he was a bandit. Over the years, unfortunately, because we are not able to get her out, he becomes her husband. Whether arranged marriage or forced marriage, he becomes her husband. He becomes the father to her son or to her daughter. So this, linkages. Sometimes bonds are formed because of this long duration in isolation. So we should understand when this lady said they want to go back, it is not something we should be looking at psychosocial support that we should give them.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll direct the next question to Brigadier General Bala. Now, she talked about bandits, she talked about insecurity, and saying people are dying of hunger. Which is the situation right now? What's the government doing about it?
The government is doing a lot about it. There are lots of results being addressed, being announced in the press. But the quantum of success in any operation, especially the ancient known mantra that the security persons are vilified in peace and honored in war. There is so much, even today before I left the house, I was going through social media, because actually that's where you get news in Nigeria, because the traditional press is another story. And there are a number of women that have been arrested in the Northwest, delivering ammunition. They are informants, performing sexual services, delivering ammunition. The troops, the really few troops that are out there doing these operations, things are happening. But the magnitude of the problem is what the issue is. The insurgents, the terrorists are very, very fluid. By the benefit of social media, we have their faces, they speak to us, but it's not like, they are not like General Bala who you can catch in Katampe Extension or come to his office in Kado, in Sanizango and Daura Estate. They are very, very fluid. They move around. So it's a very, very difficult thing. And they are so repressive of the communities they are in that it's very, very difficult for those communities to give information to the forces. But I assure you, Ma, that it's a difficult operation. That's why we call it the long war. It's a difficult operation for which we are losing fine men and women to prosecute and ensure that all of us are safe.
All right.
Actually.
Thank you so much, Brigadier General Bala. The next question I'll direct to Brigadier General Usman, and he was talking about what can we do about an all-society approach, making everyone inclusive.
Thank you very much. I think, is that Senator? But you should have the answer to the question, because you are the only senator that I've seen that has not been elected. So being a senator, you should know. But it may interest you to know the new trust is that it is even no longer the whole society approach is no longer tenable, but a whole nation's approach. Therefore, when you are dealing with security challenges, regardless of whatever who it is, there is need to mobilize the whole society so that you be on the same page. Now we have an instance here. Security challenges or issues are being bedeviled with extraneous variables, religious differences, ethnicity, stereotyping, and so on and so forth. That is an impediment, because we have had instances where you need the support and the cooperation of the people, whereas the antagonist is trying to, tell them otherwise, that he or she, they are being persecuted because they worship a particular god or they speak a particular language.
Okay.
So if you want to have a whole nation approach, the starting point is mobilizing the people. But it is not even enough. Mobilizing the people, you have to condition them socio-economically to be able to contribute and to be mobilized effectively.
All right.
If you don't give people sense of belonging, definitely there is so much injustice and inequalities. So definitely people will not understand that it will be very difficult to mobilize, but it's doable, because bulk of the security challenges are local, and to a large extent the solution is local. It's just a question of having the political will to deal with it decisively.
All right, thank you so much, Brigadier General Usman. You talked about sense of responsibility. We'll go on social media because we have so many questions. I'll take this one. This one is directed to Dr. Adamu. This is from Autain Garba Ahmed, all the way from Zamfara State. Thank you so much. What is the real cost of insecurity in Nigeria? And are we winning this undeclared war? Let me take another one. So we'll come back to the panelists. This other one is directed to Brigadier General Saleh. This is Usman Undayako, and he's asking if you would speak about the security personnel and weaponry funded by the federal government but deployed to private and non-state assignments. I'll take this other question. This is from Oroma Sanderson to Brigadier General Usman. Are there ways in which the Nigerian government and private sector can work together to improve intelligence sharing in order to address some of the current security challenges? Those are the three questions. I think I'll come back to the audience as well, so we can take as many questions as possible because of time. All right, I think we have someone here in the middle. Okay. Please introduce yourself. Please, 1 minute, one question because of time.
Good day, everybody, and thank you to the panelists. I think Toll has asked the question that I wanted to. However, I'm going to speak from an international standing. My name is Dr. Maimuna Salim. I'm South African, living in Nigeria. So my first experience coming to Nigeria in 2008, traveling on a road trip to Delta, I was told, excuse me, when they stop, do not speak. Because if they know you're international, you'll be kidnapped. And that was scary. So looking at where Nigeria is now, it's quite scary because so far you have people walking into a school, bandits walking into a school and taking a whole lot of girls, and nothing has been done about that. Then you have our international funders, investors, pulling out of Nigeria. That is causing an economic downturn, destabilizing the economy, causing no jobs for people.
All right, please,
so what are we doing about it? What is the cause? Impunity and corruption, and what else? And who is behind this? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think we have some students at the back there. Is there someone that wants to ask a question from there? All right, go ahead. Introduce yourself. 1 minute. Do you have a mic? Okay. Could someone please just pass it to her? Thank you so much.
Yeah, my name is Samson Gloria, and my question narrows down to security too, but it's
Could you be
more like
a bit audible?
Okay, my question narrows down to security too, but more like cyber security. So cyber crime has led to substantial financial losses for individuals, businesses, and governments in Nigeria. So how do you think this can be solved?
All right. All right, thank you so much. I think there's a man at the center.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Faiz Muhammad. I'm a public affairs analyst.
Please use the mic.
Yes, thank you. My name is Faiz Muhammad. I'm a public affairs analyst. My question is to the entire panel, really. Nigeria's multidimensional challenges are well documented. And one could argue that regardless of what these challenges are, whether it's the herder farmer crisis or insurgency, these are issues that we've been facing ever since Nigeria has been in existence. Whether it's during any of the republics or during the military era, these security challenges have existed. Would the panel argue that the capacity, and capacity can be either technical or governing capacity, of successive administrations has reduced to be able to arrest these systemic challenges? Or is the issue more foundational, i.e., is the structure of our governance preventing our security apparatus from evolving effectively to address these challenges?
All right, thank you so much. We'll come back to our panelists. I'll begin with you, Dr. Adamu. The question was, what is the real cost of insecurity in Nigeria, and are we winning this undeclared war?
Okay, thank you, Zainab. The person who asked that question is in Zamfara, and so maybe I'll try to situate my answer with the circumstances in Zamfara.
Okay.
To my understanding, part of the reason for the security challenge in Zamfara is poor land use policy by successive governments. There was an attempt to introduce a land use policy, and then in that process, access to resources was denied a certain segment of the population. In an attempt to deal with the consequence of that, they created vigilantes. And those vigilantes with the mindset that a particular ethnic group was behind the security challenge, started targeting that ethnic group, and they also sought to arm themselves. And today we have a monster in our hand. Tied to that is climate change and the consequences of climate change and the inability to introduce adaptation measures to manage those consequences.
Okay.
Our value system that has more or less almost been destroyed. Speaking again about Zamfara, you have a family system where the father can decide to leave the house and, for all intents and purposes, allow the mother to take care of the kids. He doesn't.
So does it seem like we're winning this war, this undeclared war, like he said? That was the question. So we can.
Are we? I mean, I answered that question earlier on. The numbers that don't indicate that we're winning the war, unfortunately. And if we don't understand those drivers that I was trying to point out, we will not address the situation. We need to understand the drivers. And I'm very happy, almost all of us on the panel here were at the conference recently on Northwest Peace and Security Conference. And those drivers were identified in that conference. We're hoping that going forward, that region will come up with measures to address those drivers.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Adamu. Sorry to interrupt, but we have to wrap up because of time. All right, this is for Brigadier General Usman. I directed that question to you. Talking about the Nigerian government and the private sector, can they work together to improve intelligence? This is what he is asking.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, the answer is yes. And there are so many ways, beyond even improvement of intelligence. I'll give you an example before I will come back to the main question itself. Way back, I think 2007 or thereabout, there was a particular chief of army staff realizing that whenever we go on peacekeeping operation, in fact, there are certain countries, they fund some aspects of their military through contribution to United Nations peacekeeping operations. And take, for instance, an armored personnel carrier in every month fetches as much as $10,000 to Nigerian government. And I believe the military officers here will bear me witness. There was a time when we had 10 Nigerian battalions performing peacekeeping operations outside the country. So you can multiply the number of armored personnel carrier per battalion or unit as the case may be. It is not just an APC. All the equipment, UN pays for it. And we realize the economy cannot sustain or support, equipping a particular, battalion to the point required by the UN.
All right, General
So,
Usman,
he thought of going into partnership with a particular bank. So, but going back to what you are saying, yes, it is doable. And that is why I kept on talking about, the whole nation approach, because every component of Nigerian society has a role to play.
Okay.
Take, for instance, even the National Union of Transport Workers, they are always, traversing nook and crannies of this country. The military has once gone into partnership with them, especially with troops coming, on leave from the northeast, and several of those bad eggs were arrested ferrying admonition.
General
So
Usman,
it can help. It can help.
It can.
If you partner with the private sector, to gather intelligence. And there are so many other components of Nigerian society.
All right, thank you so much, Brigadier General Usman. Thank you so much. I know that we cannot exhaust this conversation, but I will direct this one to General Sali. I asked earlier, is asking to speak about the security personnel and weaponry funded by the federal government, but deployed to the private and non-state assignments.
Thank you very much for the question. This is clear before everybody. I think I about addressed that in one of my interventions. It's all about the political will. There is hardly an IG, Inspector General of Police, since 1999 that came in and his first declaration was
was not about withdrawing policemen from non-constitutional duties. But what do we have? You know, even the kind of police, including soldiers that we recruit, have an elitist mentality. I have given this example several times. I will cite it again today. There is a young girl in 2016 that I enabled to be recruited into the Nigeria immigration. By the 4th year of her 11-month training, she had sent me a message. You know how they call us daddy? Daddy, I heard that there is foreign posting. Can you please talk to the CG so that I am posted abroad? It's the same mentality with our beautiful children who were bastardized NYSC. All of our children are in Abuja. And even in Abuja, within the circle. So there is this elitism, okay? And we don't really learn to allow service to actually be for the people.
All right.
If
What
you,
ended there?
last
Brigadier
one,
General Saleh.
if you go outside now, or some of you sitting here who are special people, take a conscience vote. How many policemen are driving you? How many policemen are holding your 9,000 pound Gucci bags?
All right,
Who
Brigadier
otherwise,
General Saleh,
sorry,
we were
that you
out
should be
of
carrying?
time, really, because
I
we still
land
have
on that
questions to be
because
answered.
to know that the UNDP ratio is 1 policeman to 446 citizens. So if you have procured 1 policeman to yourself, it means you have denied 446 Nigerian citizens
All right,
of
Group
protection.
Captain. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wish the IGP was here, to answer some of these questions as well, but unfortunately, he didn't make it. Quickly, she talked about impunity, talked about corruption, the fact that people who travel, foreign people, international, and you come and you hear about kidnapping and the rest of it. What's the government doing about it? I'll direct that to you, Group Captain. You can use the mic.
We must accept it from the chief.
Quickly, please.
That in our national life, whenever they talk about corruption, even when you are abroad, if you are a Nigerian, you have to preach to. Sometimes you don't have the answers. So embedded in our endemic security problems is also the issue of corruption. Corruption in that people who are supposed to oversight the military, whether it is in the executive branch or it is in the legislative branch, they end up conniving, to either, sometimes it is not actually even stealing the money. Sometimes it is misapplication. Because, for example, you will find a legislator shouting that there is banditry in Zamfara, there is banditry, but put him in a security-related committee. The first thing he will say, go and build a school with security money in my local government. Or there are some contracts to buy a certain equipment. He will say, I have a friend that has to buy equipment that is not even fit for purpose. So at the bottom of it, there is corruption. And I think everybody can take the blame from the security forces themselves. Sometimes they will tell you that to get, it is as bad as some of the security agencies to get their budgets. They also still have to give something to get their budget. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kabir Adamo, I'll allow you to answer that question on cyber crime. What's being done?
There is a cyber law, and recently, as you're aware, it was mired in controversy when there was an attempt to impose a levy. But that's, I think, just the framework. Unfortunately, just like in physical security, there is a lot of cyber crime occurrences. People's WhatsApp, whatever numbers are being hacked. They use that to collect money, and incidentally, sometimes even provide bank accounts where those monies are deposited. So it's a very gray area that a lot of effort is required. But the law is there. I think it's just the implementation of the provisions of that law.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kabir Adamo. I apologize, we cannot take more questions or comments because of time. We really apologize. You can continue to engage with the conversation by using the social media handles on your screen. When we return, we'll hear final thoughts from our panel. It's back to you, Cameron.
Right. Thank you, Zainab. Right, we'll take a quick break. Don't forget the social media handles are on your screen. You can continue to use them. When we come back, like she said, closing remarks.
My administration shall always accord the highest priority to the safety of the people, inter-service collaboration, and intelligence sharing have been enhanced. Our service chiefs have been tasked with the vital responsibility of rebuilding the capacity of our security services. Here, I salute and commend our gallant security forces for keeping us safe and securing our territorial integrity. Many have paid the ultimate sacrifice. We remember them today and their families. We shall equip our forces with the ways and means needed to perform their urgent task on behalf of the people.
July 1918. He got involved. To life imprisonment. He was later released from its gates on Sunday, 11th of February 1990, 9 days after the unbanning of the ANC and the PAC. Nelson Mandela never wavered in his devotion to democracy, equality, and learning as he immersed himself in official talks to end white minority rule. In 1991, he was elected ANC president to replace his ailing friend, Oliver Tambo. In 1993, he and President F.W. de Klerk jointly won the Nobel Peace Prize, and on 27 April 1994, he voted for the first time in his life. On 10th May, he was inaugurated as
measurement and consequence management system of the government. And I think the administration was quite smart in appointing Hadiza Bala Usman as the person who will drive that process. Just for those who are not aware, what it does is that the president has signed a performance bond with the ministers, and in that performance bond are key performance indicators showing clearly what the government wants those ministers to achieve. And what Haja Hadiza has done under the Central Delivery Coordination Unit is to divide it into three processes. One is she's developed an app that each citizen can engage with to tell, go into a particular sector and tell that system you are happy or you're not happy. If you're happy, these are the reasons why you're happy. So I think the onus is on us again to engage with that process so that we tell the process whether we're happy or not. Again, it's online, it's an app, you can access it and then provide information on that. The second component is she brought together experts, and I'm happy to say I'm participating in that process, especially in the security sector. And then for all the other sectors, there are other experts who are helping to analyze and assess the achievement of those key performance indicators. And then lastly is to give the ministries themselves the opportunity to showcase their contribution. So I think we're making progress. We're not yet there, but at least the foundation, the structures to assess performance and then for consequence management to follow. The onus is on us as citizens, and especially the fourth estate of the realm, the media, to continue to speak about it so that at the end of the day, we would see improvement in the performances. With regards to food security, the government has been doing a lot. No doubt, the removal of subsidy on oil and then the flotation of the naira has affected the economy. And currently, the conversation is around a cost of living crisis. Food inflation is about 42%, if I'm right, and then inflation itself is about 30%. And just like I think Mama contributed earlier on, it's very difficult for the average Nigerian to survive. And I think somebody mentioned that some companies are actually shutting down, adding to the unemployment challenge in the country. So all of this would make food security very difficult. But there are some interventions that the government are attempting to come with. It sounds like experimental, but we're hoping that at the end of the day, they will be productive. The most recent one is to marry the Ministry of, I think, Women Affairs and the Armed Forces of Nigeria, where land that has been left fallow for a very long time would now be used for agricultural production. So all of these are interventions. Whether they would give us that sense of quote-unquote security that we want is what we don't know at the end of the day. But like I mentioned earlier on, there is an institutional process for measuring performance. Key performance indicators have been developed, and the onus is on us as citizens to tie into that process so that we provide input, and then we also make sure that the process is transparent. The first quarter...
I'm afraid due to time constraints, Dr. Adam,
if you allow me to land, it's important.
Just 10 seconds.
We've completed the first quarter evaluation, and the report has been submitted to the president. So we're hoping that the consequence of that will be perhaps maybe a cabinet reshuffle.
Okay. Retired Brigadier General Usman, your closing remarks.
Well, you are not being fair to me. You would have given me a line of thought. But I must say, honestly, I am super elated with this opportunity. And thank you most sincerely for it. And but beyond that, I think the issue of security in this country should be looked at very, very seriously, because you can never and you will not have meaningful development in an atmosphere of insecurity. Therefore, there is need to galvanize the whole Nigerian society, because each and every one of us has a tremendous role to play in securing this nation. But the government needs to lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Brigadier General Bola?
I would like to speak to the political professional nexus, which is very, very important in national life. I will plead with the politicians to please petter down on politicizing our professional institutions, particularly the security organizations. I will give some modicum of credit to the Tinubu government for allowing to the best extent that ethnicity did not drive their selection of the leadership of the police and the military institutions, so to speak. However, it is very, very important that we allow our professional defense and security organizations to throw up leaders by themselves and within themselves. I think we have crossed the Rubicon beyond where, as we have seen in Guinea-Conakry, that it is actually the best guards commander of the president that upset him.
I would want to make a pledge that we have a very, very professional military and police that can be depended upon to throw up their leadership at various levels and various sectors. Because the politicization and the ethnicization of the leadership of our defense and security institutions has really weakened our capacity. These are my conclusion. And to also celebrate this convening, I think this convening is more successful, not because I'm a panelist, is more successful and open than otherwise how it was designed and planned. Thank you.
Thank you. And Group Captain Shehu.
Thank you very much. My final point is that the Tinubu administration, in the Renewed Hope agenda, page 5 to 10, has set out a very good agenda for itself with regards to security. 7 broad areas, 24 action points, I counted them. So with this document, which is well designed, the government has a way to mark itself. It has set its own marking scheme. What I would like to see is that marking scheme is being applied. The people entrusted with security, they should be asked to account for their actions. They should be given timelines. They should be this. But again, when we talk about security, it's not only the work of the executive. The National Assembly have as much powers over security issues as the president. I insist on that. The only powers probably that the legislators do not have is the powers of appointment and firing the security chiefs. But all other things, how much is given, what is done with it, they have powers to either check or also legislate on them. On a final note, why I'm calling on everybody to do his bit. The security agencies who are doing a human job, but they have to do better. Because you cannot tell now in the present circumstances, you cannot tell somebody living in Zamfara or Katsina that security has improved. That is the reality. You may probably tell somebody in the Northeast that security has improved. So this has to be a continuing conversation. Just last week, we talk of National Assembly, we saw Senator Oshumole raising a very important point that is at the bottom of our problem. But surprisingly and unfortunately, the reception that debate brought was very underwhelming. I could see even the shock on the face of the Senate President. Please, everybody should do his bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to our panels. And there you have it. We have come to the end of the first year. It's been 2 days of insightful conversation on nation building. Challenges have been identified and solutions proffered. Ours is a nation that's beset with many challenges, but with clearer understanding and a sincerity of purpose, we have a better chance of overcoming these obstacles. We would like to thank our panelists for taking the time to come and share their experiences and their professionalism with us. And also thank you to the MacArthur Foundation for your support as always. Thank you to our media partners and the entire production crew. My name is Camry Apollo, and on behalf of my co-host, Zainab Balogun Olowu, the entire production team here at Daria Media, thank you for joining us, and God bless Nigeria.